Hello, my big bratwursts, and welcome back to another video. Oh no, that's a bad one. I don't know what a good one would be though. I want to do like a food thing. Hello, my beautiful baby schmetterlings. That's not a food. That's a butterfly. What else? What else can we do? Hello, my October festers. No, we're just gonna rest with what we have. And welcome back to another How Would I Judge a Drag Race Season video. Today we are going to be going over Drag Race Germany Season 1. This season I fucking loved. I adored this season. This season, I'm going to be entirely honest. I watched the first 2 episodes and then did not watch any of the rest of the season until I was preparing for this video. So I kind of missed the live happenings of it and what was going on with it entirely. Like, I would like read the spoilers when the episodes came out of like what happened, but it was only a few days ago that I ended up watching the whole season basically, and girl, I fucking loved it. All of these contestants are so dynamic and are so stunning, and it really just feels so fresh to me. Like, it's such a season where, I mean, we have 2 contestants place in the bottom 2 4 times. 2 separate contestants do that. That's crazy on a fucking regular season of Drag Race. And all these different wins and people, you know, being high in, barbecue high in episode 1, leaving episode 2, Nikita Vegas winning episode 4 and leaving immediately after. It feels dynamic, but it doesn't feel contrived. It just feels good. There are some judging issues, to be sure, and we'll get through those later. But even like despite that, it's still just so interesting and so fun. In this video, we are going to be going over this season, and I'll be sharing my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on how I would judge the season if I was the main judge of the season. As you can probably also tell by my voice before we go any further, I am sick. I do not feel good at all. So this video might be slightly shorter than it usually would be, but I wanted to get a video out for you all. I wanted to get this out. So while I will be suffering, you know, for the next however long this takes me to record, I'm doing it for you. So thank me. I'm just kidding. You don't have to fucking thank me. That's cringe, honestly. I'll shut up now. The rules to remember, as always, are the season has to be as long as season 1 of Drag Race Germany originally was, which was 12 episodes, and the performances and the challenges need to be based off of how well someone did or how people would predict they would do. So I'm not just going to put somebody in the bottom when they were in the top or vice versa. And I'm going to be using all the available resources I can to find this different information about who people would have, you know, done for Snatch Game if they didn't make it there, and what people would have worn on the runway, so that we get a good cohesive narrative and are sticking true to our guns of what would happen on this season. The goal is to act as if I'm the head judge and craft this season however I can imagine to make it as fun and eventful as possible, while also being fair with my judging of the season by combining my own personal tastes and what was shown to us on the show. Alrighty, let us get started with episode 1. In episode 1 here, we have ourselves a runway challenge. They had to bring a look. Essentially, they are doing the best drag runway. They're doing, like, your best drag as a runway challenge. And just, like, you know, whoever brought the best look is going to win. You know, very kind of UK season reminiscent, and, you know, some other seasons that exist. Now, looking at the timeline for this season, the way this is, the amount of contestants, and with the amount of non-elimination episodes that there needs to be, there's 11 contestants and 10 competitive episodes. So to get to the finale that makes any sort of sense, you have to have at least 2 non-elimination episodes in the season. And I am a big believer, personally, of if you can make the first episode a non-elimination, why not? Because I feel like everybody should get a chance to, like, show, you know, their strengths and what they can do with their talents. And it can be done in different ways. You know, it could be done in this way where you just have, like, 2 people lip sync for the win. You could have, like we just had with Drag Race Brazil, where it was a split premiere. So while the first boot only competed in one episode, they had much more time spent on them than they would have if they were all 12 crammed together in one episode. You know, we kind of need to have that time to like get to understand each of the contestants a little bit more, I feel like. So I decided to make this episode a non-elimination episode. Now, originally, the top 3 contestants in this episode were Pandora Knox, Laylee Cocoon, and Barbie Q. And I put them in the top here as well, with Pandora and Laylee being the top 2. But since we were doing this, you know, nobody's in the bottom, we're just kind of celebrating and, like, critiquing, like, good things. I think it was most fair in this situation, since there was 11 people, to have 5 tops and like 6 people in the bottom, very kind of a la like the Daytona Win Challenge on Drag Race season 14. I've said in other kind of versions of this that with like this like premiere situation where nobody's in the bottom, I would do like 3 people in the top, but that's really more of a situation where it's like a split premiere where it's like 7 and 7. Like if it's 7 people, having 3 people in the top and 4 people safe makes sense to me, you know? But in this scenario with 11 people competing all together, I felt like 5 and 6 was a split that made sense, because it's about half, but there's a smaller portion of people who get positive critiques. So looking at the looks, I decided to put Lorelai Rivers and Metamorkid up in the high placements, along with Barbie Q, Laylee, and Pandora Knox. And everybody else is going to be safe. Now, our top 2 contestants of the week, Pandora Knox and Laylee Cocoon, are going to be lip-syncing to Lieben Fear by Shireen David, who was the guest judge on the episode, so that's cool. And looking at the lip sync abilities we saw from each of these contestants on the season, I do feel like Pandora Knox would win the lip sync, and so she would win the challenge for me. So Pandora Knox is going to win. Laylee Cocoon is top 2, which is our own special little placement here. And then we have our highs and safes, and yeah, there's really not much more to say here, so we're going to move on to episode 2. In episode 2, we have ourselves a design challenge. The contestants have to create runways inspired by fetishes, which I feel like is so fun. I love this like challenge category. That's just it's so interesting and can really be taken. It's limiting, but it's also so broad in a way, you know? It's limiting in that it has to be like a fetish, but you can honestly make anything a fetish and like create an outfit inspired by what would a fetish for this look like. And so I feel like that's a very interesting situation that we got here. I decided to mostly keep the placements the same here. The top placements are all the same. Lorelai Rivers is going to win this challenge. Her look is so good. It is so polished and clean, and it feels quintessential fetishy, you know what I mean? You've got the black leather, the straps, and it feels fetish. It feels like what I think of just thinking of the word fetish by itself. And then our high placements are the same. Pandora Knox and Tessa Testicle both did amazing jobs in this challenge. We'll get into Miss Tessa Testicle later. I'm obsessed with her. I can't even describe how much I fucking love her. She's amazing. I did change one placement here, being that originally Nikita Vegas was safe and Kelly Hilton was in the low placement, but I decided to switch them. I just personally preferred Kelly's look over Nikita's. I don't think Kelly did like a stellar job in the challenge, and I don't think Nikita did a dog shit job in the challenge either. I just preferred Kelly's over Nikita's, so I decided to swap them there. And so our safe placements this episode are Kelly Hilton, Laylee Cocoon, Metamorkid, The Only Naomi, and Yvonne Nightstand, which, let's talk about Yvonne Nightstand. I love that drag name. It means nothing, but it feels like everything. It's so, like, I don't know what the fuck Yvonne Nightstand is supposed to mean, except Yvonne Nightstand. It's so singular, and I fucking love it, you know? It's just perfect. Nikita Vegas is low, and the bottom 2, as they were originally, are Victoria Shakespeare's and Barbie Q. They're going to be lip-syncing to Break My Heart by Dua Lipa, and sadly Barbie Q does not know the words to the song, and Victoria Shakespeare's does. So it really only makes sense for Victoria to stay here and Barbie to go, but ooh, I loved Barbie Q the second I saw her. Once I saw the cast reveal for this, Barbecue was like one of my people who I was like, oh, she's gonna go far. I believe in Miss Barbecue. And that was not the case, so whoopsie daisy, but Barbecue's cute. And I feel like it was really just like a bad day for Barbecue, you know what I mean? Also being cast on the season, having the exact same first name as the host of the season, Barbie Breakout, like that is, I love that. Like you know your fucking star when that logistical issue comes into play and they're like, fuck yeah, we still want you, Barbecue. So sadly to say, Barbecue is eliminated here, and we're gonna move on to episode 3. In episode 3, we have ourselves the Rusical Challenge. It is a crime Rusical. Dun dun dun! Oh, can I like hit those notes with my voice? Dun dun dun! Oh, weird. Ew, I don't like it. Never mind. Moving on. In this challenge, they have to perform in a Rusical. No shit. So I ended up deciding to keep all the original placements the same for this challenge. I thought this challenge was actually judged pretty damn fairly. It really was Metamorkid's kind of like show, along with Kelly Hilton's. They were the two that kind of stole each scene that they were in. They were obviously, in my opinion, the two best. And Victoria's character was so dumb. It was stupid and it was perfect. It was perfectly dumb and weird, and she did a good job with it. And like looking at everybody else, looking at her and like the safe contestants, for example, like I just don't see anybody else who should be in the high placement but Victoria. She did a great job with this. And it was pretty obvious from the jump that the 3 contestants who were kind of like the model influencer people at the beginning of the Rusical, Yvonne Nightstand, Tessa Testicle, and the only Naomi, were going to be the bottom 3 because their roles just did not stand out much with each other, and they kind of got screwed into a similar situation that a lot of people get screwed in on Drag Race, being that you're in a group of 3 for a Rusical and you just don't have the space to shine because while you might have a good amount of screen time, you're always on with 2 other people, so you're just kind of associated as a group of 3, and it would be better to be in a situation where you weren't in that group of 3. I mean, we fucking saw this happen with the first Rusical ever with, like, Shay the Rusical on season 6 of Drag Race. Like, this is just kind of like, it's a bad situation. You do not want to put yourself in that situation if there is one, if you're in a Rusical. You just should try and fight against it. You really should, because it does not work well for you. And that is the fault of, like, the writers of the Rusicals for sure, for making these characters that really have no chance of winning. And, like, one of them could have been safe. You could have a situation where they were safe for their performances, but I don't think there's any situation where any of them could win for their performances, which is, it's sad. And that leaves Lele Cocoon, Lorelai Rivers, Nikita Vegas, and Pandora Knox as the safe contestants. Our bottom 2 of Our bottom 2 of Tessa Testicle and the only Naomi are going to be lip syncing to Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler, which, I mean, fucking work. Love that song. And Tessa kills this. And so does Naomi. Naomi actually does a great job here, too. And I have seen comments online that people think that the only Naomi actually won this lip sync, and I just disagree. The only Naomi does do more, like, kind of like tricks here, you know, more kind of like these like splats. I don't know what else to call them. Just both knees behind the back and just falling to the ground. There's definitely a technical name for it, but I cannot think of it at this moment, and I apologize. You know, all these different moves, these cartwheels, but it doesn't come across as sickening. It comes across more to me as like, oh god, I need to stay in the competition, please. You know what I mean? And I feel like if we're looking at a contestant who had more kind of soft moments that were impactful, you definitely got that with Tessa. And Tessa also had some big moments. I mean, at the very end there, the beat at the end, Yola Naomi is just kind of standing there, kind of finishing out the note, and Tessa's just going like, and she just steals the final, like, 15 seconds of it. She absolutely steals that. And I also think she starts off stronger than the Yola Naomi as well. So it just makes sense for me that Tessa wins this, and sadly Naomi is going to be eliminated here, and we're going to move on to episode 4. Now here's where shit hits the fan, so to say. So in episode 4 we have these advertisements. They're in groups of 3, and I did judge this challenge in groups because It was one of the challenges where, I mean, technically I might have switched a person or two if we were to do this individually, but I thought the way that the groups were was so close that it just made sense for me to keep the groups as like the, you know, the way that they're split up here. In this challenge, they have to create commercials where they have to essentially advertise products in different ways, and, you know, make, you know, it funny and do comedy and, you know, be intriguing and all that jazz. Originally in this challenge, Nikita Vegas won, and I think Nikita did a good job here. In fact, I think Nikita probably did the third best job here. I preferred Pandora's and Tessa's performances over Nikita's. Those are my top two for this challenge. I really like their performances here. But looking at each commercial as its own individual thing, and looking at the other contestants, I feel like Yvonne and Kelly are a very solid, like, 5th and 6th place here. And I would say Laylee was like my 4th favorite. So looking at just individual performances, our group of Pandora, Laylee, and Tessa is like the top group for sure. I also just saw the humor in their performance more. Obviously, with every international season, especially those that aren't in English, there are definitely going to be some like jokes and cultural contexts that exist that I just will not pick up on. And, you know, if somebody laughs and tells me it's funny, then for some things I'm going to be like, okay, then that was funny. But for this commercial situation, I was impressed but did not laugh at Kelly, Nikita, and Yvonne. I was impressed and laughed at Pandora, Laylee, and Tessa. So they're gonna be the top group. And I feel like a lot of people feel like Pandora did a bad job in this challenge, and I just don't get it. I really like their group. And that was also exacerbated by the fact that in this episode, Pandora also won this originally, but for her runway look, which just doesn't make sense to me. Did she have, like, one of the best runways? Absolutely. But it wasn't, like, why would you do that? What is the point? You're just going to introduce us now in episode 4? It's kind of shitty. But in my personal opinion, looking at the challenge and the runway, Pandora was my winner. So she's going to win this challenge, and Laylee and Tessa are going to be high. Kelly, Nikita, and Yvonne are going to be safe. And our bottom group of Metamorkid, Lorelai Rivers, and Victoria Shakespears are going to make up the bottom contestants here. Now, originally, looking at the original placements for this episode, Lorelai was low. So I do think, looking at all three of them, Lorelai probably was the worst and should be in the bottom 2. And looking between Metamorkid and Victoria Shakespears, I think Metamorkid did better, just generally in this challenge and with the runway. So Metamorkid is going to place low here, and Victoria Shakespears is going to be in the bottom 2 with Lorelai Rivers. Now, this is our first big shakeup here of this season, because as you can see, Victoria Shakespears is going to be eliminated here. Now, you might be like, girl, why are you eliminating Victoria Shakespears? She's a fierce fucking lip syncer, and she is. She's a great lip syncer. The problem is, Lorelai Rivers is also a great fucking lip syncer. And I think to the lip sync song About Damn Time by Lizzo, they would both do a great job to this. I think they would both do great. I really don't know who would do better. And the fact of the matter is, Lorelai Rivers has 2 top placements up to this point, whereas Victoria Shakespears has 1, but was also in the bottom 2 on episode 2. So, looking at the track record, Lorelai has done better in the competition up to this point, and combining that with the fact that I do think they would do very similar jobs in this lip sync, I think it makes more sense to save Lorelai Rivers here and eliminate Victoria Shakespears. So she is going to be eliminated here like 3 episodes prior to where she would be. And we are going to be moving on to episode 5. Already in episode 5, we have ourselves an improv challenge where they have to improv kind of courtroom dramas a la Judge Judy. What the People's Court. I'm just trying to think of ones. A Judge Rinder for our UK Huns out there. And originally, Miss Victoria Shakespeare was here instead of Lele Cocoon, so we are going to have to factor that in to this. Now, the mini challenge this episode did determine the teams. Everybody who won the mini challenge is here. Lorelai Rivers, Metamorkid, Pandora Knox, and Tessa Testicle are all here. And they had to split themselves up into these groups. And I don't see a scenario why these groups wouldn't be the same, just swapping out Victoria for Lele. So I feel like the same group would win here. And that does matter in terms of which roles everybody is getting. This does mean for our pairs, we have Metamorkid and Pandora Knox doing the like eyebrow, mouth, butt sketch. It's whatever the fuck that was. We have Lorelai Rivers and Tessa Testicle doing their sketch, which was also a fucking fever dream. They all were. Kelly Hilton, along with now Lele Cocoon, doing their like drag mother sketch, and Nikita Vegas and Yvonne Nightstand doing their catfishing kind of sketch. And so I almost judged this doing like one person from each group in the top and one person in the bottom from each group. But I decided not to do that because they didn't do that originally and it felt kind of weird and contrived to kind of do that. But I think if you're looking at my top four and my top four are one person from each group and the bottom four are the other people from that group. So originally Lorelai Rivers won this challenge, and I completely agree with that. Lorelai played it straight as she physically could have. And it was so good. I was so impressed watching her. She committed to the bit so fucking hard, and it landed every time. I loved it. She did great. And Metamorkid was in the top originally as well. Also did an amazing job overacting for the sketch. Now, originally, Victoria Shakespeare's was in the top for this challenge, but since she is not here, somebody else has to be there. And my main two considerations were Yvonne Nightstand and Kelly Hilton. I thought in the real-life scenario, Yvonne was definitely the standout between her and Nikita. And I think if you are having Kelly and Lele, I think Kelly is definitely the standout between that pair. But I decided to go with Kelly just because I feel like she did a great job originally as well. And even though looking at Victoria and Kelly doing the sketch, I do think Victoria did better. I don't think she did like leagues better. I think she only did a little bit better than Kelly. And ultimately at the end of the day, I thought Kelly's performance in this challenge was cleaner and like made more sense than Yvonne's. So she's going to be high here. Our safe placements are going to be going to Yvonne Nightstand, as previously mentioned, who I thought did great here. And Pandora Knox was originally in the bottom two, and I just did not get that. Because while I do think Metamorkid did better than Pandora, it wasn't like she blew her out of the water. Like, she did fine. I feel like looking at this originally, Tessa and Nikita did much worse. It's not even limited to the scenario where she's safe. I feel like in the original scenario where Victoria was there, it still should have been Tessa and Nikita in the bottom, not Tessa and Pandora. I really think that they put Pandora in the bottom there originally because they wanted to send Tessa home. Because that was, in that scenario, Tessa's fourth time in the bottom two in the first 5 episodes. So, like, girly, you just go home. But, like, in this scenario where this is only Tessa's second time in the bottom two, like, that reasoning doesn't exist. And I even feel like in the original scenario, the reasoning doesn't exist. Like, just put them in the bottom two and let her survive another lip sync, because girl, she deserves it. I fucking love Tessa Testicle. So, yeah, Pandora's gonna be safe here. I considered low for a minute over Lele, but I think Pandora did a solid enough job, and my lack of knowledge about Lele's performance, and considering how Lele performed in like the Rusical and the acting challenge, I think Pandora did better, granted not by a large amount, but did better than her in both of those challenges as well. So with another kind of acting comedy situation, I feel like Pandora would probably again do better. So she's going to be safe here over Lele Cocoon in the low placement. They're going to be lip-syncing to Atemlos Dirk Die Nacht by Helene Fischer, and I think Tessa would win this. I mean, we saw Nikita lip-sync in the episode that came after this originally, and comparing her performance to Tessa's performances throughout the season, I feel pretty confident that Tessa would do better. So Tessa is going to stay here, and Nikita is going to be eliminated, but we love Nikita Vegas. And we're going to be moving on to episode 6. In episode 6, we have ourselves the Snatch Game, where the contestants are, have to impersonate celebrities. We know what the Snatch Game is. Who are we? If we're being truly technical about it, it was the Snatch Game at sea. Which, why was it the Snatch Game at sea? Why did they do that? But who cares? Okay, now originally, Tessa Testicle and Layla Cocoon were not in this challenge, so we gotta figure out who the fuck they would do for the Snatch Game. Now, it just so happens that the person that Lele would have done for this challenge was Rafa's Plastic Life, a German celebrity who just so happened to be the guest judge on the episode. So that is a fun little situation we get here that we didn't get originally. And looking at the impersonation little thing that Lele posted on Instagram, Lele did a pretty good job. I didn't think that she would have done a better job than Kelly here, but I do think she would have at least done a better job than Pandora. So it was really kind of determining, is she safe or is she high? I decided to put her as high. I decided to put her there. I felt like she did a pretty damn good job of that impersonation, and you can check out that impersonation on her Instagram. It's not deep down. I'm pretty sure you could see it as soon as you load up the page. Now, we don't know what Tessa would have done for this challenge. I could not find Tessa saying anywhere who she would have impersonated for the Snatch Game. But looking at the improv episode that happened literally the episode prior, I do not feel entirely confident about Tessa and her improv abilities. I just don't. I don't feel good about it. And also looking at her in her Angela Merkel getup during that challenge, doing makeup to impersonate a celebrity, I felt like she did a fine job with it. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't terrible. So in terms of the physical impersonation as well, I don't feel 100%. So I thought it made sense to put Tessa in the bottom 2 here, sadly. Now, originally in this episode, we had a bottom 3 of Victoria Shakespeare's, Nikita Vegas, and Lorelai Rivers. Now, Victoria and Nikita are not here, so that leaves little old Lorelai Rivers to be in the bottom 2 with Tessa Testicle. And I decided to put Pandora Knox as low. Originally, she was high, along with Yvonne Nightstand, with Kelly winning, and Metamorphic being safe. But I thought in this scenario, first things first, with Victoria and Nikita gone, that's 2 people who were worse than her in the challenge leaving. We do have Tessa coming back, here, but that's still one less person to have done worse than her. And with Lele being here, somebody who I do think would do better than her, that essentially forces me to put Pandora as high or safe, usually, is what that would kind of force, either Pandora or Yvonne. But I thought Pandora did worse than Yvonne and Metamorphid. I didn't hate it by any means. I thought it was fine, but that's kind of it. I thought it was fine. I wasn't in love with it. I got where she was going, where she was trying to portray kind of Arnold as super dumb, but it kind of just play up the that sensibility of it, but it just didn't really click for me. I got what she was doing, but it was more of a okay, other than oh, that's so funny. That sounded so fucking mean. That did not mean to sound like that. But to get to the point, Pandora Knox is low here. Kelly Hilton wins the challenge. Her impression was great. And these are our placements. And so the bottom 2 of Lorelai Rivers and Tessa Testicle are going to be lip syncing to Flowers by Miley Cyrus. And this is another one where I feel like it'd be so close. Because Lorelai Rivers is a great lip syncer. Tessa Testicle is a great lip syncer. And it's the same scenario, kind of, where looking at the track records, Lorelai's done better. She's done better throughout the season. She's got 2 wins to Tessa's 0. And this is Lorelai's second time in the bottom 2 versus Tessa's 3rd. So, it just kind of makes sense to me that Lorelai's going to stay here. I mean, I feel like people are gonna say I'm overrating Lorelai's lip syncing abilities, but I mean, look at her performances in the Flowers lip syncs and the Nobody's Supposed to Be Here lip sync. Look at those performances. They are stellar. I was in awe watching her Nobody's Supposed to Be Here Hex Hector remix lip sync performance. I mean, I think with this song and with how she did it originally, she could win over Tessa Testicle. And based off of track records and the fact that I think they would have done similar levels of great in this lip sync, I think it's just only fair that Tessa leaves. And that brings me so much pain because I love Tessa Testicle. She's just such an icon. She's just so funny. Everything she does is funny to me. She's just so sickening, but I mean, if you've seen online with the rumors, I skip ahead like a minute if you don't want to hear me talk about this. Rumors surrounding seasons, Global All Stars specifically. I fucking love that Alyssa and Tessa are like best friends. Alyssa Edwards, who I'm referring to here, and they really give off such similar energies. Tessa Testicle is Alyssa Edwards in a way. They're very similar energies. And I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I could watch them sit in a room and talk about anything for hours. They are just incredible, and Tessa is just such an icon. Everything she did was funny to me or pretty, and it was just I'm obsessed. All right, so let's move on to episode 7. In episode 7, we had ourselves the ball challenge. Now, we do have Lele here in place of Victoria Shakespeare's, and I decided to actually do 3 tops and 3 bottoms. I literally said in my fucking Brazil video that going forward, I would be doing 2 tops, 2 safes, 2 bottoms, and a 6-person episode, and I decided to scratch that right here. My apologies, but it really is what makes the most sense to me here. I feel like Meta, Kelly, and Pandora all slayed the challenge. They all did amazing. Whereas I thought Yvonne, Lorelai, and I think Lele Cocoon would do okay in the challenge. Now, we do know one of Lele's looks for this challenge, which I'm going to throw up on screen right now, that being for the Future Me category. And looking at her fetish look that she made earlier in the season, really all we have to go off of, I don't think her look that she would have made in this scenario would be stellar. I think it could be good, but I don't think it'd be, like, amazing. I think it would probably be worse than Meta's, Kelly's, and Pandora's. So I do think, knowing those 2 things in the scenario, that Lele would have either been lower in the bottom 2, and I decided to put her in the bottom 2 because Yvonne, while there was some situations going on with some of the outfits that I wasn't 100% a fan of, I do think she would have done better than Lele. I think Lorelai would have been the worst, and then Lele would have been second worst. That's the way I see it. And originally, it was a double win-those challenge between Kelly and Pandora, but I thought Meta did better than both. I really liked Meta's stuff. I really, really enjoyed it. So Meta is going to win this challenge for me, and I mean, it's a ball challenge. It's due to personal taste for these outfits, and I really just fucking love Metamorphic's looks here. There were pieces of looks from Kelly and Pandora that I wasn't entirely wowed by personally, in terms of looking at, you know, comparing them to the rest of the field and comparing them to Meta's looks. I just thought Meta really turned it out all the way around. So Meta is going to win this challenge for me. Our bottom 2 is going to be Lorelai Rivers and Lele Cocoon, and they're going to be lip-syncing to Nobody's Supposed to Be Here by Deborah Cox. And looking at the way that Lele lip-synced in the actual season to About Damn Time, I feel like Lorelai would mop her. I think she'd fucking mop her in this lip-sync. I'm sorry, but she would mop her. She would kill her. I mean, call me crazy, but the dip that Lorelai does in this lip sync is easily top 5 cleanest dips on Drag Race. It's not even a question to me. It is so good. It's amazing, girl. She kills that fucking dip, and the whole rest of the fucking lip sync she's giving face, and it's so perfect, and I love it. And while I think Lele would give it her all, she would not turn it as much as Lorelai would, in my personal opinion. So Lorelai is going to stay here, and Lele Cocoon is going to be eliminated. And I do think this would be like a shock elimination, because Lele, while having not won a challenge up to this point, I feel like, has done good throughout the competition, and obviously the first time in the bottom two, second time in the bottom three overall, but first time in the bottom two, losing to Lorelai, I feel like it'd be very interesting to watch. Episode 8, I honestly don't have much to talk about because I kept all the placements the same. I completely agreed with them. I think Yvonne Nightstand murdered this challenge, and I think Metamorph did very good too. I was actually pretty damn close to putting Metamorph as the winner of this challenge, but I decided not to. I thought Yvonne did great as well. And looking at, the fact that it's comedy in a different language, they were really close to me in my English years. And if to the German ears, Yvonne did better, then I'm going to say, yeah, Yvonne did better. So Yvonne's going to win the challenge. Good for her. Metamorph is going to be high, and Kelly Hilton is going to be safe. And the bottom two are going to be Pandora Knox and Lorelai Rivers. And they're going to be lip-syncing to Chandelier by Sia. And Pandora does win this lip-sync. And this is also Pandora's first time in the bottom. 2 wins up to this point. Lorelai also has 2 wins, but this is her 4th time in the bottom too. In this scenario, Lorelai Rivers is the contestant who has 4 bottom 2s, which is very interesting. I mean, she had 3 originally, so it's not crazy, but it is interesting that it's Lorelai here who kind of, takes out our 2 original kind of lip sync assassins, so to say, of the season, like Victoria Shakespeare and Tessa Testicle, and she goes on to have the 4 lip syncs herself and kills in all of them, even the one that she loses. So sadly, Lorelai Rivers is going to leave here, and we're going to move on to episode 9. In episode 9, nothing changes again. This is the second episode in a row where there's no judging changes. In this episode, the contestants are paired up, which is weird for me for a fucking 4-person episode, which makes me believe that they were always going to do this top 2 in this episode no matter what, which is kind of weird. Also considering the fact that they had another competitive episode to do, so they were never going to actually, run a makeover challenge with 3 contestants and then, save the bottom 2. They were never going to do that. They were never going to run a makeover challenge with 3 contestants. What season would do that? All Stars 8. But regardless, they all did great in this challenge. You kind of have to have another double save at some point, and this just felt fitting. So, Meta and Yvonne are the top 2. They're going to be lip-syncing to Rock Me Amadeus by Falco, which is an amazing fucking song for a lip-sync. I am so happy that we live in a universe where fucking Rock Me Amadeus is a lip-sync song on Drag Race. I love it. Give me more of that novelty, kind of 80s and beyond shit, Give me I'm Too Sexy by Right Said Fred. I want to see it so fucking bad. Give that to me, please. I want to see it. In this lip sync, Meta does better than Yvonne. She wins originally. I think she did better. She's going to win the challenge. Now, looking at, the Drag Race Wiki track records, I think Kelly and Pandora are placed as high in this episode. But I disagree because, in my personal opinion, if you're going to have an episode where there's no bottoms, just people who are in the top and lip sync for the win, and yay, everybody goes home happy, there's gotta be safe. Safe is the benchmark. Safe is you did enough to move on to the next episode without negative critique. There could be some negative critiques in there, mixed in with positive, but not overall negative critique. I feel like the base placement at the bottom of an episode that's formatted like this is safe. And so having win in the top 2 and then 2 highs, high I feel like almost implies that you're above somebody. But safe doesn't. Safe just means safe. So they're safe to me, if that makes sense. Let's move on to episode 10. In episode 10, I just realized I made an editing mistake. The border around Meta's picture should be the same as around Kelly's, not the darker red. Because neither of them are going home this episode. We're having a top 4, baby. Woo! You should have expected this from me. I like doing nominations for final episodes. It makes me happy. And I think looking at this challenge and this lip sync, girl, okay, so Originally, Yvonne Nightstand won, and Pandora was safe/high. For 4-person episodes, I do a win safe and a bottom 2. Looking at this scenario, I understand why Yvonne won the challenge. And it's a makeover challenge, by the way. They're making over people having to use dirndls? Dirndls. I forget how it's pronounced. Dirndl. That's what I'm going to call it right now. I just looked it up. Wiktionary says dirndl. We're sticking with dirndl. Now, I think that Pandora had a better look here with the dirndl. I understand why Yvonne won. Yvonne's was a bit more traditional with the use of the dirndl. But I don't really feel like that was, like, the challenge. Like, the challenge was to use the dirndl and, like, do the makeover look. But it didn't have to say sticks traditional to the dirndl. Pandora went ahead and did, like, a clown dirndl situation, which, I mean, I love clowns, so I'm biased in that fact, I will say that. But I feel like Pandora kind of turned the prompt on its head a little bit while still following it, and I really liked it. So Pandora is going to win this challenge for me, and Yvonne is going to be safe. And essentially by default, the bottom 2 are Kelly Hilton and Meta Morkid. While neither of them did a terrible job, I do think Meta did a better job than Kelly here. Meta did not use enough of the dirndl, and Kelly's look was a little bit shapeless, I guess is the best way to put it. It wasn't the most flattering situation. Like, it wasn't a bad look. I feel like it's one of these looks that with another hour put into it could have been 10 times better. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just like a few tinches away from being solid, but it's just not there fully. But sadly, in the scenario, that does land Kelly Hilton in the bottom 2 with Meta Morkid, and they're going to be lip-syncing to Heart to Break by Kim Petras. And this scenario, while it is partially an excuse to say, God, I love Meta and Kelly so much, I want them both to stay and make the finale, it also is a scenario where, looking at the track records, like, Meta does have more wins than Kelly, for sure. She has more wins. It's like a 3-1 split here. But in terms of, like, points, like the PPE scores, they're very close. And looking at the lip sync, I don't know who I think did better. It's less of a scenario where they both did so good, so they both need to stay. It's more of a scenario where they both did a good job, but were so even that I don't know who I prefer genuinely. So it would feel weird to me if I were to say, oh, Meta goes home here because she did worse, when I don't really think that. I feel like they both did very similar in terms of the lip sync. If I had to eliminate someone, I think I would eliminate Kelly, mainly due to the track record and the fact that Meta, I think, did better in the challenge. But, like, that still feels icky and weird and unfair to me to eliminate either of them. So I'm not gonna do it. You can't make me. You're not my dad. So we're gonna be moving on to our reunion episode. And the reunion is the reunion, as it always is. We have, I would say, Layla Cocoon still winning the, like, fan favorite situation. They crown Victoria Shakespeare's Miss Darling, whatever that means. But, you know, good for her. I'm assuming it's essentially our Miss Congeniality, but not calling it Miss Congeniality. You know what I mean? In the finale, the contestants have to perform and do choreography and dance to Call Me Mother by RuPaul, which, I mean, great song. And then they have to do the final lip sync, which is To Rise Like a Phoenix by Conchita Wurst, which, great fucking choice for a lip sync song. Oh my goodness. Perfect. Now, we are having Kelly Hilton here in the mix in this scenario. And I feel like with this challenge, and with this top 4 in particular, it doesn't really make sense to eliminate anybody before the final lip sync. I guess if I were to choose 2 people, it'd probably be Kelly and Yvonne, because they each have 1 win, whereas Pandora and Meta have 3. And I don't think that either Kelly or Yvonne would have, like, really turned it out. But it shouldn't all be based on, like, track record necessarily, especially in the finale. And in this finale, the person with the second best track record is winning. Yes, in this scenario, Meta Morkid has a better track record than Pandora, granted only by 1 point. She has 1 high placement over a safe placement from Pandora. That is literally the only difference in their track record here. But looking at this finale, and especially looking at the final lip sync, I do think Meta and Pandora did amazing, but I do think Pandora kind of stole the show for me, especially with like the paint at the end there. It really was so nice. It was so good. And looking at the season as a whole, it really, to me, kind of felt like Pandora's race to lose in a way. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you're looking at like the main characters of the season, I do feel like Meta and Pandora really do kind of fit those roles here. But it really felt like a lot of the season was waiting for Pandora to fall off. And it never happened. Yeah, she was in the bottom for the roast. But in this scenario, but she still won 3 challenges. And only did a point worse than Metamorkid. And looking at them and their performances throughout the season, and who I think really exists and lives and is a winner of Drag Race, it to me feels like Pandora Nox should win Drag Race. You know what I mean? She just has the essence of a winner to me. I'm not saying Metamorkid doesn't. I just feel like on those points of who really was kind of the star, the breakout sensation of this group, and who has the essence of somebody who's the winner, I see it as Pandora. So Pandora is going to win this season. Here are the track records here. Top 2s are 4.5 points, wins are 5 points, highs are 4, safe is 3, low is 2, bottom is 1, and eliminated is 0. This is the first season I've ever done where everybody has a PPE score above 2, which is crazy. That is a fucking rare situation to happen. The fact that that happened for everybody. And as you can see, Meta is just 1 point above Miss Pandora Nox, and Kelly's only half a point above Yvonne. So very fucking close here with these different scenarios and different situations happening throughout the season. And a fun fact, as with the original season, in this one, Yvonne Nightstand, the only contestant to not lip sync for their life, is the only one of the top 4 to have lost a lip sync. In this scenario, Pandora and Metamorkid both win 2, and then Kelly wins 1. Whereas Yvonne has won 0. So that's very funny to me as well. Just a little point there. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you wish. Leave your thoughts, feelings, and opinions down below. As always, I will leave my Twitter link down below if you want to go follow me on there. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, take care. I'm gonna go let my voice rest. Good night. Goodbye. I don't know why I said good night. I'm filming this at 1:45 in the morning. That's why I said good night. I'll shut up now. Bye-bye, y'all.